I stepped into my parents' living room after years away, holding the legal notice addressed to the estate of Jennifer Lane. My mother's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood floor. Red liquid spread like blood across the pale wood. My father went completely pale, his newspaper crumpling in his frozen hands. My sister let out a thin, sharp scream that cut through the silence like a knife. My father whispered, his voice barely audible. This can't be. She's supposed to be dead." Their shock punched me harder than any slap could. The air felt thick, heavy, impossible to breathe. I stood there in the doorway, very much alive, very much breathing, and very much unwanted. My name is Jennifer. And in that single moment, I realized the horrible truth. My family had told the entire world I died. As I stepped further into the room, my legs shaking but my voice steady, I demanded answers. "What did you tell people? What did you say happened to me?" My mother finally moved, her hand fluttering to her throat. She muttered, almost too quiet to hear, "You weren't supposed to come back." My sister blurted out, tears already streaming down her face. "We had no choice, Jen. You disappeared." I reminded them, my voice getting louder with each word, that I didn't disappear. They knew exactly what happened. I was kicked out, thrown away like garbage, erased from their perfect family portrait. My mother insisted, standing up now with her hands clenched into fists. "You left us no choice. You were destroying this family." She wouldn't say what I supposedly destroyed. The word hung in the air between us like smoke. I watched her face, searching for any hint of guilt, any sign of the mother who used to tuck me in at night. Nothing. Just cold fear. I realized they weren't upset to see me. They were terrified. Terrified that I was standing here, alive and real, ruining whatever story they'd built without me. "Tell me the truth," I demanded. "What did you do after I left?" My father slowly stood up, walked to the side table and grabbed a folder. His hands trembled as he held it. When he turned it around, I saw my childhood photo on the cover. Underneath my smiling face, printed in elegant script, were two words that made my stomach drop. In memoriam. They held a memorial for me. My sister confessed quietly, unable to meet my eyes. It was small, only close neighbors. Just a few people from church. Mom said it would help everyone heal. Heal from what? I wasn't dead. I was just gone, forced out, abandoned. But they turned my absence into a tragedy they could control. I felt physically sick. The room started spinning. I grabbed the back of the couch to steady myself. These people, my own blood, had buried me while I was still breathing somewhere else. My father snapped, his fear turning into anger. "You should have stayed gone." The cruelty in his voice hit me like ice water. This was the man who taught me to ride a bike, who helped with my homework, who promised to always protect me. And now he wished I'd stayed dead. "Why now?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my best efforts. "Why did you pretend I died?" My mother's face collapsed. For a second she looked ancient, every line deepened by guilt and panic. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "We needed people on our side." My mother revealed, still not looking at me directly, that the lie kept them sympathetic during a community scandal. They needed a tragedy, something that would make people feel sorry for them instead of asking difficult questions. They needed everyone's support and pity. They used me, used my absence, turned me into their dead daughter so they could play the role of grieving parents. "What scandal?" I demanded, stepping closer. "What was so bad that you had to kill me off?" My father slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. "That's enough. You don't get to come in here and interrogate us. You left." But I didn't leave. They forced me out. And we all knew it. My mother tried a different approach, her voice softening into something that might have been manipulation. "Jennifer, sweetheart, it's complicated. You were so young, you didn't understand what was at stake. I was 23 when they kicked me out. Old enough to understand everything. Old enough to know right from wrong. Which is exactly why they wanted me gone." "Tell me about the scandal," I repeated. "Or I walk straight to the police with this." I held up the legal notice, the one that proved I was very much alive. The memories flooded back. Years earlier, I had discovered my father's financial fraud. It seemed small at first, just some questionable numbers in his company books. But the more I looked, the worse it got. Fake accounts, missing money, forged signatures. When I confronted him, he laughed it off. Said I was confused, that I didn't understand business. But I kept digging. I told my mother, thinking she'd help me talk sense into him. Instead, she told me to forget what I saw. When I wouldn't drop it, when I threatened to report him, they gave me an ultimatum. Leave quietly, or they'd make my life impossible. I was young, scared, and broke. So I left. But I never stopped being angry. I rebuilt my life in another city, worked 3 jobs, put myself through school, and swore I'd never speak to them again. I wanted them cut out forever. Then the legal notice arrived at my apartment. A subpoena tied to an investigation into my father's company. It mentioned my name, listed me as a potential witness. And it was addressed to my supposed estate, as if I were dead. Now the fraud was resurfacing. Bigger, worse, impossible to hide. And they were panicking. The notice demanded my presence in an investigation involving my father's company. There were dates, legal terms, official stamps. This wasn't going away. My mother hissed, her sympathy mask dropping completely. If you cooperate with them, you'll ruin us. You'll destroy this entire family. I looked at her, really looked at her, and replied, You already ruined me. The silence that followed felt like falling. My father sat back down heavily. My sister started crying again, quieter this time, hopeless. Then my sister whispered, her voice so small I almost missed it. Jen, they told everyone you wanted to stay dead. They said you sent a letter saying you were done with life. A letter? What letter? I never sent any letter. My father's eyes darted away. My mother suddenly became very interested in the broken glass on the floor. Show me, I demanded. My sister disappeared into the other room. I heard drawers opening, papers shuffling. When she came back, she held a single piece of paper like it might burn her. She handed it to me, and I saw my name signed at the bottom in handwriting that wasn't quite mine. They told neighbors I overdosed. They told others I ran away into a cult. Some people heard I had a mental breakdown and wandered off. Each story was different, but all of them ended the same way. Tragic, dramatic, and most importantly, making my parents look like victims. I thought I understood betrayal before. But this was different. This was a violation on a level I couldn't process. The stories spread through our old community like wildfire. I imagined the whispered conversations, the pitying looks my parents received, the casseroles dropped off at their door. All of it based on lies. All of it using my supposed death as their shield. How could you? I asked, but it came out as barely a whisper. How could you use me like that? My mother didn't answer. She just stared at the floor, lips pressed into a thin line. My sister handed me the letter again, the forged goodbye letter. They needed something concrete. Something people could point to. I read it again, my hands shaking. The handwriting was a sloppy imitation of mine. Some letters matched, others were clearly wrong. But it was close enough to fool people who didn't know me well. The letter said I was broken inside. That I couldn't handle the pressure of life anymore. It apologized for shaming the family with my actions and choices. The words made me feel sick. I confronted my mother, holding the paper up. Who wrote this? Because it definitely wasn't me. She said coldly, without emotion, it had to be believable. That wasn't an answer. That was an admission. They forged a suicide note to make their story more convincing. They crafted my final words to make themselves look better. Who wrote it? I repeated each word slowly, clearly. My mother's eyes flicked to my father. Just a glance, barely a second, but I caught it. My father shifted in his chair, uncomfortable but defiant. Does it matter? You were gone. We did what we had to do. It mattered. It mattered more than anything. They didn't just lie about my death. They created false evidence. They made me write my own goodbye. My sister whispered, Dad practiced your handwriting for weeks. The room went silent again. My father didn't deny it. He just stared at me with cold eyes, as if I were the problem, not him. I told them, letting the words sink in slowly, that the investigators already knew I was alive. The legal notice proved it. They just hadn't met me in person yet. But they would. Soon. All color drained from their faces. My mother grabbed the edge of the table. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish. We can fix this, my father said quickly, desperately. There's still time. We can explain everything. and say it was a misunderstanding. My mother added, her voice sharp with panic. If you help us, Jennifer, the family name survives. We can rebuild. We can make this right. Make it right? After everything? After erasing me, profiting from my supposed death, forging my handwriting? They thought I would help them? My father stood up and walked to his desk in the corner. He pulled out his checkbook, scribbled something quickly, and tore out the check. He slid it across the table toward me. The amount was larger than I expected. 5 figures. More money than I'd seen in years. Your silence, he said simply. That's all we're asking for. They were trying to buy me. To pay me off like some blackmailer. Like my pain, my erasure, my entire existence could be covered with money. I pushed the check back across the table without even touching it. The paper spun slightly before stopping in front of my father. My mother snapped, her desperation turning into rage. You owe us. We raised you. We fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. I looked at her, really looked at her and said, and then you buried me alive. The words hung in the air. True. Undeniable. My sister started crying harder, her voice breaking as she pleaded. Please don't do this. Please, Jen. Think about what this will do to all of us. But what about what they did to me? Did anyone think about that? I pulled out my phone slowly, deliberately. I held it up so they could all see. I recorded this entire conversation, I said. Every word. Every admission. Every threat. My mother's face went white. My father froze completely. My sister's crying stopped, replaced by shocked silence. You what? My father breathed. I tapped the screen, showing them the recording app still running, the timer showing 23 minutes and counting. 23 minutes of evidence. Of confessions. Of them admitting everything. You can't do that, my mother whispered. That's illegal. You can't record people without permission. My mother lunged toward me, her hand reaching for the phone. I stepped back quickly, holding it away from her. Give me that, she screamed. Give it to me right now. My father stood up, his face dark with anger. He muttered, more to himself than to me. You were always a threat. From the beginning, you were always the one who couldn't just follow the rules. That word. Threat. Not my daughter. Not family. Threat. Stung more than I expected. Because it was honest. It was how they really saw me. Not as their child, but as a problem that needed to be eliminated. My sister suddenly whispered from her corner, her voice cutting through the tension. There's more. You don't know everything. Everyone turned to look at her. She was pale, shaking, but her eyes were determined. What are you talking about? My mother demanded. My sister ignored her, speaking directly to me. There's more to this, Jen. More than just the lies about your death. More than the fraud. You need to know the whole truth. My father moved toward her threateningly. Emily, be quiet. But my sister stood up, facing him. No. She deserves to know. My sister revealed, her words tumbling out in a rush, the most shocking part. My parents collected a payout on my supposed death. From a life insurance policy I never knew existed. The room spun. I grabbed the back of the couch again, my legs suddenly weak. What? I managed to say. My sister nodded, tears streaming down her face. After they declared you dead, after the memorial, they filed a claim. It was a policy Dad took out years ago when you were still a teenager. You were listed as unrecoverable. I stared at them, my parents, these people who created me. You profited off me. My mother's voice was defensive now, sharp. It kept us afloat. The legal fees from the investigation, the lawyer costs, we needed that money. They needed it. They used my fake death to collect insurance money. They turned my absence into cash. I felt like I might throw up. How long had they planned this? How many steps ahead were they thinking when they kicked me out? My father tried to justify it. You weren't using it. You were gone. What difference did it make? I wasn't dead. I shouted. I was alive. I am alive. Then I realized something else. The investigation would uncover this automatically. Insurance fraud. False death claims. This would come out whether I said anything or not. Overwhelmed, drowning in revelation after revelation, I needed space. I walked upstairs to the old guest room and locked myself inside. The room was dusty, untouched, frozen in time. But it felt safe. I could hear them arguing downstairs. The sound carried through the old vents. My father's voice angry and sharp. We need her under control. This is spiraling. My mother's voice panicked. She's not leaving until we fix this. Lock the doors if you have to. They were planning to keep me here. To trap me until they could figure out what to do. I pulled out my phone, checking the recording was safely backed up. It was uploaded to 3 different places. Even if they took my phone, the evidence existed. A soft knock came at the door. 3 taps, gentle. Jen. My sister's voice. Can I come in? I didn't answer at first. Could I trust her? She'd helped them lie. She'd known about everything and said nothing for years. Another knock. Please. I have something you need to see. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door and opened it just a crack. My sister stood there alone, something hidden behind her back. She pulled out a USB drive, the small device looking almost innocent in her palm. It's everything Dad did, she explained quickly, glancing back down the hallway. All the files, all the fraud, all the fake accounts. You should know the whole truth. Was she trying to help me or help herself? I couldn't tell. I took the USB drive carefully. Why are you giving this to me? My sister's eyes filled with tears again. Because I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying. I can't keep pretending. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I've been living in fear of them too. Those words hit different. My sister, the perfect daughter who stayed, who followed every rule, was also afraid. Maybe I wasn't the only victim here. Maybe she was just better at hiding it. What do they have on you? I asked. She shook her head. It's not what they have. It's what they'll do if I don't obey. You got out, Jen. You escaped. I never did. She left before I could respond, pulling the door closed behind her quietly. I sat on the dusty bed and plugged the USB into my phone using an adapter. The files loaded slowly. Spreadsheets, documents, scanned papers. Everything is organized in folders by year. I spent the next hour reviewing files. Each folder revealed more fraud. Fake accounts under false names. Money moved between companies that didn't exist. Altered reports submitted to investors. Tax documents with forged signatures. My father's fraud was massive. Far bigger than what I discovered years ago. If this collapsed, if investigators found even half of this, my parents would lose everything. Their house, their savings, their freedom. This wasn't just about reputation anymore. This was criminal. Serious criminal activity spanning decades. Then I found a folder that made my blood run cold. It was labeled with my name. Jennifer Insurance. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside were emails between my parents' lawyer and a banker. The subject lines alone told the story. Death claim processing. Documentation requirements. Payout confirmation. I clicked on the first email. It was from 3 years ago, 6 months after I'd left. My father's lawyer wrote, "We'll need to confirm the body is unrecoverable to proceed with the full payout. Can you provide documentation?" My father's reply, "Death occurred out of state. Local authorities confirmed that no body recovered. Attached documents should suffice. They planned this. They didn't just react to my leaving. They planned to declare me dead and profit from it." The emails continued. Dozens of them. My parents' lawyer worked with the insurance company, providing false documentation, confirming I was dead. One email made my stomach turn. Signed affidavit confirming Jennifer Lane deceased. Body unrecoverable due to circumstances. The family requests payout to proceed for funeral expenses and grief counseling. Funeral expenses for a funeral that was just a small gathering. Grief counseling they never attended. All lies to justify collecting money from my supposed death. The final email in the folder was the confirmation. The insurance company agreed to pay out the full policy, $200,000. They made $200,000 by declaring me dead. I sat there, phone in my shaking hands, trying to process the scale of their betrayal. This wasn't just about protecting their reputation. This was premeditated fraud. They had killed me on paper, collected the money, and moved on with their lives. Suddenly, my mother started pounding on the door. Hard, aggressive slams that shook the frame. "Jennifer," she screamed. "Jennifer, open this door right now. We need to talk." I quickly pulled the USB from my phone and hid it in my pocket. My mother's voice cycled through emotions like a storm. First pleading, "Jennifer, honey, please. We can work this out. We're family." Then crying, "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry for everything. Please forgive us." Then screaming, "You're ruining us. You're destroying everything we built. Open this door." Then threatening, "If you don't come out, we'll break it down. Don't test me." I stayed silent through all of it. Let her rage. Let her beg. None of it mattered anymore. Finally, her voice went quiet. Deadly quiet. She spoke through the door in a whisper that somehow felt more terrifying than the screaming. "We can make this go away again." Those words. Make this go away again. Like they made me go away. Like they could just erase me a second time. I heard her footsteps retreat down the hallway. But I didn't unlock the door. I couldn't. Because I finally understood how dangerous they were. They had killed me once on paper. What would stop them from trying something worse if I pushed too hard? I needed to leave. Tonight. Before they decided I was too much of a threat to let live. I unlocked the door around midnight, hoping everyone was asleep. I needed to get to my car and drive away before they could stop me. But when I crept downstairs with my bag, I found my father standing by the front door. Waiting. He wasn't surprised to see me. "Going somewhere?" he asked. I faced him trying to stay calm. "I'm leaving. You can't keep me here." He didn't move away from the door. "We need to talk. Family sticks together, Jennifer. Especially in hard times." I replied, my voice steady despite my fear. "You declared me dead. We stopped being family the moment you buried me." His expression darkened. The mask of the concerned father dropped completely. And maybe that was the right choice. The cruelty in those words was stunning. He meant it. He genuinely wished I had died, that I had stayed gone forever, that I had never come back to complicate his lies. "Get out of my way," I said. "No." We stood there in a standoff. My father blocking the door, me with my bag, both of us knowing this moment would decide everything. Suddenly my sister screamed from the kitchen. "Dad, stop. Just let her go." She appeared in the doorway, her face red from crying. My father turned toward her, his voice dangerous. "Emily, stay out of this." But my sister stepped between us, facing our father. "No. I won't. Not anymore." She turned to me, her eyes pleading. I helped them lie. "I stood at that memorial and cried fake tears while you were out there somewhere, alive and alone. I watched them collect that money. I knew everything." Her confession spilled out like water breaking through a dam. "I'm so sorry, Jen. I was scared. I was weak. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being part of their lies." My father moved toward her, his hand raised. "Emily, I'm warning you." "What?" she challenged. "You'll erase me too? Make me disappear? Tell everyone I died?" The question hung in the air. My father's hand dropped. Because we all knew she was right. If I could be erased, anyone could. My sister reached into her pocket and pulled out several folded papers. She handed them to me. "It's my statement. Everything I know. Everything I witnessed. Dates, details, all of it." I signed it. She was giving me evidence against our own parents. Insurance that they couldn't touch either of us anymore. I took the papers, unfolding them quickly to scan the contents. Her handwriting covered 3 full pages. Detailed accounts of conversations she'd overheard. Dates when documents were forged. Meetings with lawyers. The memorial service. The insurance claim process. At the bottom, her signature with the date. "Why now?" I asked her. My sister looked at our father, then back at me. "Because I want to go out too. I've been trapped here just like you were. I just didn't have the courage to leave." She continued, her voice getting stronger. "They use fear. They use guilt. They use the threat of losing everything to control us. But watching you stand up to them tonight, I realized something. Freedom is worth more than their approval." My father's face had gone purple with rage. "You ungrateful, stupid girl. After everything we've done for you." "You mean after everything you've done to us," my sister corrected. She turned back to me. "Go, Jen. Get out of here. I'll handle them." My father moved toward us both now, but my sister stood firm. "If you touch her, I'll call the police right now. I'll tell them everything." The threat worked. My father stopped. because he knew she meant it. And if the police came, if they started asking questions, everything would unravel immediately. With all the evidence gathered in my bag, I packed quietly while my sister kept watch. The USB drive, the recording on my phone, her written statement. Everything I needed. My mother sat on the stairs as I came down, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked up at me and whispered, "If you walk out that door, everything ends." I stopped looking at her one last time. This woman who gave birth to me, who raised me, who then tried to erase me. "Everything ended when you chose to bury me," I said simply. She reached out like she might grab my arm, but I moved past her. My father stood in the living room, watching with cold eyes. He didn't try to stop me this time. He just watched. As I reached the front door, he spoke. "You'll regret this. You're making the biggest mistake of your life." I turned back to face him. "No. The biggest mistake was trusting you in the first place." I walked out. My sister came with me to my car, helping me load my bag. "Will you be okay?" I asked her. She nodded. "I'll stay tonight to make sure they don't do anything stupid. Then I'm leaving too. I'm done." As I drove away, my father appeared in the doorway. I could see him in my rearview mirror cursing at me, his face twisted with rage. But I kept driving. The next morning, I sat in a small conference room with 2 investigators. They listened with expressions of shock as I explained everything. Who I was, why I was supposed to be dead, what my family had done. I gave them the USB drive. They plugged it into their laptop and started scrolling through files. Their eyes widened with each folder they opened. I played them the recording from my phone. My parents' voices filled the room, admitting everything. I showed them my sister's written statement, detailing her role and what she'd witnessed. One investigator, a woman named Detective Morrison, looked at me with something like awe. "You just opened a major case. This is bigger than we thought." The other investigator, Detective Chun, nodded. "Insurance fraud, financial fraud, forgery. And that's just what's obvious. When we dig deeper, there's probably more." They told me I'd need to provide formal testimony, that there would be a trial eventually, that my family would face serious consequences. I agreed to everything. I wanted justice. I wanted them to face what they'd done. As I left the police station, my phone buzzed. A text from my sister. Just one sentence. "They're falling apart." Over the next few weeks, I watched from a distance as my parents' carefully built life shattered. Neighbors learned I was alive. The news spread through their community like fire. People who'd attended my memorial, who'd brought casseroles, who'd offered condolences, now felt betrayed and angry. They'd been used. The insurance company opened a fraud investigation. They wanted their money back plus penalties. They filed a lawsuit against my parents. My father's company suspended him pending their own investigation. His business partners distanced themselves. His reputation crumbled. My mother went into public denial. She told people it was all a misunderstanding, that I'd been mentally ill, that she was the real victim. But nobody believed her anymore. Their friends stopped calling. Their church asked them to leave. The community they'd manipulated for sympathy turned against them completely. Through it all, my sister kept me updated. She'd moved out into her own apartment, finally free. She texted me photos of her new place, her new job, her new life. One message said, "For the first time in years, I can breathe." Then she asked, "Can I move in with you temporarily? Just until I get fully on my feet." I thought about it carefully. Could I trust her after everything? I let my sister stay with me, but I set clear boundaries. She paid rent. She contributed to household chores. She went to therapy to process everything that happened. First, it was awkward. Years of distance and pain didn't disappear overnight. But slowly we started rebuilding something real. Not the fake sister relationship our parents forced, but something honest. Meanwhile, my own life started improving in unexpected ways. My boss at work learned about what I'd survived. Instead of treating me like damaged goods, she promoted me. She said my resilience and courage proved I could handle difficult situations. I started therapy too, processing the trauma of being erased, of being declared dead, of being valued so little by the people who should have loved me most. It was hard, painful work, but necessary. I reclaimed my identity legally and emotionally. I existed. I mattered. I had value beyond what my parents assigned me. One afternoon a letter arrived. It was from the insurance company, addressed directly to me. My sister watched nervously as I opened it. Inside was official documentation, legal language, and a check. I read through it twice to make sure I understood correctly. My hands shook as I held the papers. The letter confirmed everything. My parents had to repay the entire fraudulent payout. $200,000 plus interest plus penalties. The total amount bankrupted them. They had to sell their house, their cars, everything they owned. They were financially ruined. Their social reputation in the community completely collapsed. Nobody trusted them. Nobody wanted to associate with them. The investigation also uncovered the deeper fraud at my father's company. He faced criminal charges. There would be a trial. Likely prison time. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I had a job I loved. A small but comfortable apartment. My sister is living with me temporarily. Both of us are healing together. I had a therapist helping me process. I had friends who actually cared about me. I didn't celebrate my parents' downfall. There was no joy in watching them lose everything. But there was peace in knowing justice had been served. I simply breathed freely for the first time in years. The insurance company's letter included one more thing. A portion of the recovered payout was being returned to me as compensation. Not the full amount, but enough to help rebuild my life properly. As I signed the final legal document, officially closing this chapter, I whispered words I wished they'd heard years ago. I'm alive, and this time I choose myself.